Last time on Sakamoto Days, after defeating Boiled Post in all-out brawl, Sakamoto and the gang hit the Dodenkai headquarters to take out the root of their problems, but shockingly find Nagumo there amongst scores of dead bodies. Nagumo tells him this wasn't his doing and cautions Sakamoto about a mystery hitman X who was currently taking out other hitmen. Who really is this X, and what could he want with Sakamoto? Stay tuned to find out in Episode 6. Episode 6 shoots off with us being introduced to a new assassin, Heisuke Mashimo, the freelance assassin who, alongside his pet Pisuke, was desperately waiting for his big break. His one-way ticket to solve all his problems was getting Sakamoto, who had a 1 billion yen bounty on him. At the shop, frequent attacks from scores of assassins trying to get Sakamoto had left the store in tatters now. But the repair cost a lot. That's when Shin spots an opportunity to win a handsome 100,000 yen in a paintball tournament. As they're talking, Mashimo walks into the store, asking Sakamoto about Sakamoto directly. Sakamoto cleverly deceives the simple-minded Mashimo by telling him he was just a part-timer here, and that there were many shops that went by the same name. Ad-libbing Sakamoto's story, Shin tells Heisuke there were around 200 million people who went by Sakamoto Taro, sending him into further depression as he starts thinking about all the train fare that would rack up. Mashimo hadn't eaten anything all day, and it was pretty clear as he stood there for a moment with his stomach growling, looking at the Sakamotos like a helpless puppy. He then walks out, and it seems like it's over. But Shin confirms through his psychic abilities that he was still there, watching them with his puppy eyes. The gang finally decides to take pity on the helpless assassin by offering him some pork buns as he heads back. At his very humble abode, Mashimo doesn't lose his determination to stand on his feet so he can prove the doubters from his job wrong. That's when the paintball tournament poster blows against his face, with yet another opportunity. Mashimo's spirits rise up again. It's the next day, and Shin and Sakamoto have finished registration for the paintball tournament in the shopping district. Mashimo is also there, although his day isn't off to a great start as he finds trouble registering in the event that needed at least 2 people. He looks around and sees the Sakamotos. Not wasting any time, he quickly grovels at Shin's feet, begging they help him out. And so he eventually becomes the 3rd member of Team Sakamoto. The event's rules are simple: get shot, and you're out. The tournament begins, and suddenly 4 people get eliminated instantaneously by Mashimo with marksman-like accuracy, shocking Sakamoto and Shin. Now it's Shin's turn, followed by Sakamoto, who takes his 2 victims out as if these weren't paintball guns. Mashimo gets surprised by how good Shin and Sakamoto were. It seems as if the jig was finally up, but Shin and Sakamoto get to breathe a sigh of relief when Mashimo calls them paintball nerds. Although this relief is quite short-lived as Lu, with her big mouth, exposes Sakamoto as the same one in the picture. The damage was already done as the next second Mashimo was pointing his gun at Sakamoto, meaning the facade was finally over. However, interference from another team splits them into 2. Mashimo calls Pisuke, who brings him his suitcase that had his sniper. Mashimo quickly takes aim and lets it rip right at Sakamoto, who barely dodges a direct headshot by blocking with his hand. Mashimo's skills impress Sakamoto and Shin, but they have no time for that, as they get surrounded by other players. Meanwhile, Mashimo runs to change position, all the while bawling his eyes out that he had to take out his new friends. After taking care of company, Sakamoto teaches Shin how to look for a sniper, as the trick lies in not giving away your position. As he peeks, a bullet hits the side mirror next to him. Sakamoto then realizes that it didn't miss, and had in fact ricocheted off it and onto his shoulder. Sakamoto speculates a high spin rate bullet was behind this. Mashimo, who had been listening to their conversation through their team walkie-talkies, confirms Sakamoto's guess as he did, in fact, use a special kind of bullet. Amidst all this shooting, Mashimo recalls his days at the academy, where he stunk at almost everything except marksmanship, his bread and butter. With it, he got a job finally, but unable to keep up with anything else, he soon found himself getting sacked from it. Since then, he'd been working tirelessly to prove them wrong about his worth and potential. Mashimo had been thinking all this out loud, and Shin caught all of it. In a moment of clever yet thoughtful thinking, Shin yells out that he only needed to prove his worth to himself, ringing in Mashimo's ears. Sakamoto utilizes this little opening by grabbing a little pebble and punting it at Mashimo at such great speed that it rips through his rifle and takes him out as well. Team Sakamoto eventually wins the tournament, and a crying Mashimo accepts his defeat. Sakamoto tells him he was the most impressive sniper he had ever seen, which really delights Mashimo, who then receives his share of the winning prize, that after subtracting all the damage he had caused, came out to a measly 50 yen. Before the episode ends, we see a little of Sakamoto and Aoi's past. Specifically, the time these two first met. She was a cashier and had blown up Sakamoto's otherwise dark life, just with a simple generic greeting. After spotting the blood stain on Sakamoto's shirt, Aoi quickly runs off. Sakamoto leaves the store feeling disappointed. However, Aoi suddenly stops him and offers him a bandage for the injury, while holding a bunch of other first aid as well. Episode 7 starts off with Sakamoto and Aoi busy at some school event of Hana's, while the responsibility of the shop in their absence was in the hands of Shin and Lu. Sakamoto had full confidence in the two, whereas in reality the two couldn't stop arguing for 2 seconds. During their routine argument, Lu complains about Shin constantly reading her mind without her permission. This remark rubs Shin the wrong way, who leaves the shop after that. While this was going on, Mashimo had also shown up, asking for any leftover pork buns or something. Although his timing couldn't be worse, as Lu tells him to hit the road. Then, some strange astronaut suit-wearing guys appear at the shop, see the name Shin on Lu's apron, as she was wearing his at that moment, and tell her to come with them. The next moment, Lu can be seen tied up in the van of the mysterious bunch. One of them asks the apparent leader of the group if they perhaps had snatched the wrong person. But the leader, having confirmed the identity from the name tag that said Shin, tells him they had the right person. They then start talking about Shin's alleged origins. He used to be among many in a lab who had various experiments done on them, but was the only one who actually developed powers. The mystery bunch then mocks Shin's powers, calling them creepy, and saying that no one like that could ever be liked by someone. Hearing this, Lu snaps and drop kicks the man in the passenger seat. Even though Shin was unbearable and miserable, he was still better off than them. Lu declares boldly. Meanwhile, back at the shop, Shin returns to find Lu missing and glass scattered around. At the same time, the Sakamotos arrive as well. Shin tells Sakamoto what had happened and starts thinking it was his fault this happened. Sakamoto then tells him she was currently on the highway, as he discloses that he had hidden a GPS under his employee name tags. In the van, the mystery kidnappers start worrying about what'll happen since they have the wrong person. The leader suggests they'll just pretend Lu was Shin, but their level-headed driver, Seba, shoots that suggestion down right away because Lu wasn't a boy, and they can't fake that. Sakamoto and Shin, riding on Sakamoto's bike, show up then to rescue Lu. The kidnappers rejoice that they could now actually get their real target and come out of the van with their bikes as well to capture him. Seeing their costumes, Shin wonders if they were from the lab. Shin and Sakamoto take them all out in a short period, and now only Seba and the leader were left. Seba then gets on the roof and finally reveals his real face as he strips from his outfit. He then suddenly goes invisible and almost throws Shin on the road. Although luckily he survives by falling onto a car. He then jumps on Sakamoto's bike, and though Sakamoto gets a hold of him, he slashes the bike's fuel tank, which makes it catch fire and explode. Now stranded on the road, Shin tells Sakamoto about the lab where he grew up. Though they were all weird in their own right, these guys were definitely different from them. Nevertheless, they still had to get Lu back, and so they arrived at the lab. After taking some prop photos, the two get back to business, and Shin leads Sakamoto to the hidden lab. Meanwhile, a man covered wearing a wolf mask meets with Seba and the other guy, who tries to pass Lu as Shin, but Seba quickly rats him out, and he also gets tied up and taken alongside Lu. The stitched-up guy tells Seba to be sure to get Shin this time. Simultaneously, after arriving at the entrance, Shin tries to enter the old passcode, which doesn't work and sounds the alarm. Suddenly, the stuffed bears start shooting at them, but Sakamoto and Shin take them out with ease. Sakamoto had trained in all sorts of animal combat. However, he was going to have a first with this one, as the T-Rex skeleton started attacking as well. Realizing taking it back in working condition was not going to be possible, Sakamoto unleashes his fury on the bony foe and dismantles it. Sakamoto and Shin arrive just in time before one of the astronaut suit-wearing guys takes out a researcher there. The researcher, Ishikawa, tells them that a year ago an unknown assassin group suddenly appeared and has been making them work for them by force ever since. He then tells the two to quickly get away, or else they'll get in trouble with the floor master, who coincidentally pops up that very instant. In the cell, Lu finds the director of the lab, Asakura, also locked up there. Ishikawa quickly pushes Sakamoto and Shin into the lockers to hide them from Mad Horiguchi, the leader of that floor. The deranged-looking madman interrogates Ishikawa about intruders, but he denies it. Horiguchi then stabs him with a pen for lying, which crosses the line for Shin as he reveals himself after shooting the pen out of Horiguchi's hands. The two then get into a fight where Horiguchi stabs Shin with his needle, which starts messing with his brain signals. causing him to mix up his speech and movement. Horiguchi has Shin on the ropes when Sakamoto, whose head was shaped like a square after being stuffed in the locker, smashes Horiguchi through the lab countertops. Sakamoto then asks Shin if he wanted to save the lab, his childhood home. Shin replies he did, and so Sakamoto makes up his mind to help him clean up this mess. Around the same time, Shishiba and Osaragi also arrive at the lab, as Nagumo had tipped them off that Slur, aka X, was possibly here too. Stay connected, like and subscribe for more fun recaps on One and Only, Endless Recaps.